you say, what is the standard of proof necessary to prove police officers make an arrest? You put beyond a reasonable doubt where it's probable cause. Remember, the standard of proof for police is different than the standard of what we get in court. Robert Peel, you put all the above, but the thing that Peel didn't do is, this says the police should respond to crime alone. They do not need the assistance. Peel is just the opposite.
Do not need the assistance of the public.
Yeah, Peel says that they absolutely need the assistance of the public.
So they do not need the assistance?
They do need
They do.
They absolutely do need
Why do they need the assistance of the public?
Well, the whole idea of it is if, the citizens don't cooperate, citizens don't provide information, then the police are going to be hard struck to find out what's going on in the community.
Can't they just listen to everybody through their, anything, like, you know what I mean, through their cell phone? Like anything, if a police officer wants to look up my cell phone number through they have this special technology in all their cars.
Yeah.
They can literally just listen to anything anybody's saying.
That was the big data scares of, since 9/11 is, how much can they get and what you can do in terms of how well they're monitored. But
we should prevent a lot of crime, you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. In terms of when they use, it's pretty amazing what they can get. Some of it's not illegally gotten. But, all right, so 37. Danger is an important element of the police working personality. What are the consequences? You put A, suspicion, but it's both A and B. It's suspicion and solidarity.
Suspicion and solidarity.
Yeah. Yeah, 39 you put actual, this is just an example of total enforcement. When police officers break the law to enforce the law, that's called total enforcement.
So when a police officer breaks the law to enforce the law, how do we hold them accountable for breaking the law?
Yeah, we talked about some things. They can be arrested for doing that.
Does that ever happen?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What's a case that I could look up?
Look at George Floyd. Those officers are just going to spend the rest of their life in prison for breaking the law.
George Floyd.
Yeah. 40. What agency is considered the first state police agency? You put, what do you put? For 40, you put C. Oh, you got to, no, 40, you put A. You put Michigan State Police. It's Texas.
Perfect.
The Supreme Court's establishing the good faith exception. You put New York versus Quarles, which is the public safety exception to the Fifth Amendment. The good faith exception is U.S. versus Leon.
U.S. versus Leon?
Yep.
That's Fourth Amendment?
Yeah, it's Fourth Amendment case.
Who invented our court system?
They're all the courts were invented by legislators.
Like, when was the first court hearing ever in America?
Probably the Supreme Court. I don't know exactly, but all other courts were created by legislation. There's a lot of ad hoc courts at some point. They're all, legislators respond and create them. So, 42. What study on policing found that intervention improved the lives of citizens? You put Newark Foot Patrol experiment, but it's really a Chicago community policing study. The Newark Foot Patrol experiment was pretty interesting, but it didn't lead to decreases in crime. And the last one, you got all of it was that scenario. You said that the seizure of the cocaine was violation, false, but it actually is. So all these other things were good, but once the officers then asked them, can you search, and the person said no, so now they don't have consent, so they can't open the drawer at that particular point.
Yeah, I think where I thought it was wrong is the guy asked if he could go into his home, and you said as soon as you invite officers into your home, then it's...
Yeah, that's right. I can see where that could be confusing. The home only gets you into the home, but whether or not it doesn't give them the right to get in start opening up locked safes and not drawers and everything else. They got to ask for further consent in terms of what you consent to. You only consent to. So if an officer stops.
So as soon as, but you
you're-
said as soon as you invite the officers in your home, then it's
That-
fair game.
It's well, what you see in plain view is in fair game. Yeah. So if once they invite you into your home, anything that they can see that's on the shelf is in fair game, but not drawers and other things.
But an officer can break the law as long as they're doing the right thing.
They can break. Well, they can't break the law. They may break the law.
See how
They
it's
can.
all, it's a conundrum, the legal system. Like I could go any which way with all these cases, and I could find a word. Like if I look up a definition of a word,
Yeah.
I could prove it.
That's-
I could go the other side. You know what I mean? There's always both sides.
Well, that's why, I mean, that's the beauty of what defense attorneys try to do is they just try to take the same set of facts and put a different spin on it based on a word and whatever the legislation is or the police law.
Yeah. Like what I've learned from this class is the judicial system and police, they can break any law they want as long as they win the battle, right?
They break the law, and they put it this way. I would say breaking the law, they do. I mean, there's horrible cases of them corruption, but they bend the law in some ways. There's officers socially constructing probable cause. Is that they're taking the facts to put your best case forward. That's bending the law, around what you want to happen. And judges can do the same, but that's why it's good that we have judges that push back on that.
Right.
Some judges will push back on officers doing those sorts of things, right?
Like what's the definition of law to you?
Of law?
Yeah, like the legal definition?
Yeah, it's
Is it
what-
lex?
It's what the legislature establishes as law or a government. I mean, there's certain government entities that can define what a law is.
And then what if I choose, like, let's say it's my religious belief to not believe in your law system.
Yeah.
Now am I protected under the Religious Freedoms and Restorations Act? There's a recent case decided by...
I mean, there's some protections, if you can establish, I mean, both in the criminal justice system, but, and also in terms of what doesn't apply to you based on religious principles.
like, let's say I start my own, I'm going to start my own religion, and I'm the only one in it, and I say my belief system is the American judicial system is fully corrupt, so I don't believe in
I don't
it.
think that would work.
You don't think it would work?
No, I don't. I mean, you consider something like the Amish, right? They're not. I mean, they don't have to pay federal tax, right? And they're not punished for not paying federal tax because there's other groups like that.
Like the churches?
Yeah, so once you establish that you are a religious group that has certain beliefs, and those groups and those beliefs are accepted, then yes, certain parts of the law may not apply to you.
So let's say like a judge resides over my case and they're in a religious cult, whatever, Christianity, whatever you want to call it, and they put it on their judicial website bio.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is he going to have bias towards me being in a cult or religion? You know what I mean? Like, I think judges, why are you allowed to be associated with cults? And then I know there's judges that are associated with Hells Angels biker gangs.
Yeah.
Why are they allowed to be associated with cults and gangs?
Yeah, I think all those sorts of things are, I think there's bias. I think all of us have some bias, right? It's really hard to be absolutely fair. Judges can say they try to be fair. You bring your life to the bench,
Right.
And what you've been influenced by and what your beliefs are in terms of, and so being able to get a fair trial is difficult because of that, to get past your prejudices.
That's what I mean is like,
Yeah.
you could go every which way with how many words alone they just put in the judicial system. Like, for example, like I just said, all the judges in my home state of Dakota County, I could go through their bios and I could find something on their own government-run website that's a violation of my constitutional rights, you know what I mean? Where they would all have bias over my case, and I could prove it. And then they could break the law because as long as they win the battle. So what does it matter?
Well,
Like, how do I fix this? Like, how do I hold a corrupt judge or a corrupt police officer accountable?
well, the system is, you hope that the system holds them accountable, in terms of, I mean, like, police officers lose their jobs all the time for being corrupt. because they police themselves, you know,
Right.
and they're trained not to be corrupt, but then they get policed, or they're brought up on charges, criminal charges. Now it's difficult because getting witnesses and all that, but that's all. Same thing with judges. A corrupt judge can be held accountable by other judges, by the police, if they're caught doing things, and also by the ballot box.
Yeah.
If you're an elected official and you're corrupt, people shouldn't vote for you. Although sometimes people
Like you brought up New York City, how corrupt it was today. Remember the 7-5 precinct?
Yeah, I remember there's a lot of precincts.
I just watched that documentary. Police officers are, it's like a brotherhood, sisterhood. Like no matter what, they're going to protect each other. And I get that. That's called being a good team.
Yeah.
But how do we hold them accountable for being corrupt?
Yeah. It's usually, there's been just look, I have no doubt, you're right that there's corruption. But I also know that there are, cases where they actually held, look at the Serpico case,
Serpico?
Serpico is, part of the reason why we have, all this notion about corruption is that, look, police, there's a reason why police look out for each other, but it should only go so far, right? If you're allowing police officers to get away with serious crimes, which has happened in LA, in Chicago, in New York, in other places, small towns, right?
Yeah.
You get that corruption. It's a fundamental question of law. It's how do you hold corrupt officials?
Like in the criminal justice textbook, it talks about you're either a grass eater or you're a meat eater.
Yeah.
Like that's pure corruption to me in a criminal justice textbook.
Either of those are both. I would both consider them corrupt.
Yeah. Do you think there's any grass eaters or meat eaters in the Michigan State University Police Department?
I don't know them very well, so I would be surprised if there was any meat eaters. Meat eaters are, from my understanding of a meat eater, is somebody who's really doing some pretty vile things, and that, I suspect, I don't know what their general rules are. I haven't looked much with Michigan State Police.
You should read the 128-page police report from the Michigan State University school shooting last year.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
There's corruption in there.
Sure, yeah. Interesting.
So I had to request it through a FOIA, and they redacted almost all of it.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'll show you. It's I put it online for people to look at because it's really bad. Like they redact almost every page. It's full of redactions. And then you're saying public is police, police is public. And they talk about Nazis, they say the N-word in here. You know what I mean? Like why does that make a police report? What did the Nazis have to do with this school shooting? You know what I mean? Like
I
look
haven't
how
looked
much.
at it. That's typical for a FOIA report in terms of most of it being. I've gotten FBI reports that are just mostly blacked out.
Really? Because if like you said, it takes us citizens to hold people accountable. How do we hold them accountable if they're gonna do this? Like how do I go interview these people, all these witnesses? If I wanted to be an independent journalist and go do citizen journalism, how do I go interview these people if they won't even tell me these witnesses' names?
You could probably find them through other means.
And I did. And so I went and talked to a lot of people around campus and businesses, and they stated they were told not to ever talk about the shooting. For example, the people at Dunham Sports I interviewed 2 days ago, because I don't know anything about guns, because I think if you own a gun, it's used for one thing, right? So I wanted to go learn about the guns that were used during the shooting. And the two young ladies there, they were very scared to talk about it. And one of them works as a journalist for the state news, and she was told not to talk about the shooting. So it's like, that's police intimidation. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. And then the police's own statements in this police report, they don't make sense.
I'll have to read it then.
I'm just trying to get some answers for those 3 kids who died.
Yeah.
Because, like, the 1-year anniversary state news newspaper, it, like, didn't even put the pictures of the kids. They put Izzo on the front cover. Like, what did he have to do with the shooting? He's a basketball coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So was he involved with it? Because if I knew nothing about this town and I'm coming to investigate it, and you put that guy on the cover, well, now you brought him in for the shooting.
Yeah, that's related to the media coverage in terms of what trying to sell the.
Or like maybe they consider school shootings a sport here. I don't know, and that's why they put it's a sport to them. But thanks for meeting with me.
Yeah, sure.